welcome to Growth Central VC's first program. We have Mr. Anuj Kulkarni, who's currently working at Geo Platforms Limited and is a seasoned learning consultant advisor with rich and diverse experience in digital learning, learning technology and innovation, design thinking, change management, and project and program management. Today, he will be hosting a session on ideation and prototyping. Please make notes and be ready with your questions for the Q&A session. I'll let him take over now. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thanks, Malik. So let's get started. So I'm briefly going to spend some time on innovation itself before getting into specifically ideation and prototyping. So stay with me for say another 10 minutes, because this will kind of set the foundation, before we get into ideation and prototyping. So quickly, you have already introduced me, but I just curious to know where everyone has logged in from. Maybe in the chat they can put a city, their city, state, or country. I'm not going to wait for the responses, but just to get a feel of where is everyone from. Are they from India? Are they from some other country?
Someone who's logging in from Paris.
Okay.
One from logging in from Kolkata. One from Liverpool. One from Ireland, Mumbai, Nagpur, China.
Okay. Wonderful. So we really have a global audience, which is good. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Thanks for checking that, and thanks for everyone to give a comment. Okay. So quickly, what I'm going to talk about is before we get into actual ideation prototyping, which is the topic of the discussion. There are a lot of misunderstandings or misconception about innovation, entrepreneurship, or even problem solving. I thought I'll cover a few important points before getting into ideation and prototyping. So, incidentally, the word design, makes a lot of things confusing. Earlier, obviously, you have designers who are specialized in specific fields. They design new products, new services, and then you have typically product managers, or program managers who actually run innovation, project. So designing kind of combines, those two aspects, and it says it's a process of creative problem solving. Yeah, and I'm going to come to the word creative very shortly in the next slide. Its core is being human-centered. I mean, a lot of now product services that people develop, I'm sure this audience is going to develop in their careers, in the future. But what is at the heart of it is being human-centered. Are we really solving human problems? Are we really tackling challenges and issues that humans face through technology, through entrepreneurship, through innovation? That's the heart of it. And it also encourages organizations to focus on people they're creating for. Whether it is an organization where you're creating for, your customers, it's for your employees, or if it is, you're having a startup and you're creating something for a larger, society audience. So always the core of this is focusing on the people, and that leads to creating better products and services. Why design thinking? It's basically a recipe for success in innovation. There are 4 different aspects of design thinking. First one is obviously having the right mindset. We all keep talking about, in any field, having the right mindset is important. Be it, people developing projects using Agile, nowadays people talking about technology like microservices, platform way of doing things. And there's so many different ways in which, new products are developed. So having a right mindset is the first step in that process. Now, what do you mean by having a right mindset? Let's look into that quickly. And I'm again questioning. If there are any questions, you can put them in the chat. I'll be more than happy to, take those questions towards the end, or even Molly can help me pause and also answer questions. So keep your questions coming to the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. So if you look at the right mindset that is required for doing any kind of innovation, it is first obviously is creative confidence. Every human being, every person, whether you're an experienced person or a fresher, has creative confidence, and that's what is the foundation for building any new products or service. So having confidence that yes, creativity will lead to innovation, and there are specific steps that we can take to be more creative, which I'll talk about in the next slide. and that is very, very important to have a creative confidence in self. The second most important aspect is the ambiguity, right? Now, this kind of leads to a different discussion, but a lot of people think that if things are ambiguous, how do we innovate? Yeah? But the reality, whatever products and services that I have been part of, the reality is wherever we have found ambiguity, we have found new ways, new creative ways to solve problems, right? So that's why it's important that we embrace ambiguity instead of praying that it should not be there. The third concept is obviously making things. Yeah? Innovation, entrepreneurship, building new products and services is all about making things happen. So I can talk about new product services and how cool they are, but somebody has to build those products. Somebody has to, make their hands, make it practical, and make it happen. Right. So that's the concept of making. So innovation and entrepreneurship is not about talking about different stories, although they're important. We need to learn from different failures and successes. But ultimately, it's about making things happen. Making things, small things, making things iteratively, and then making products and services work. Learning from failure. A lot of people talk about learning from failure, but innovation entrepreneurship is all about actually practicing failures. Failure only leads to new experimentation, new ideas, and new solutions. Right? No one will get a solution in the first attempt. You keep trying things, you keep building things, you keep iterating, you keep getting testing, you keep getting feedback, and those lead to better product development. So learning from failure is the next mindset there. Iteration, as I mentioned, this is the heart of any new product service development. Yeah, nobody should ideally be developing a product or service in the first iteration itself. It may not be perfect. You always look for ways in which product or service can be enhanced or created in a unique way. So it's important that you're also iterating as we go. Now, how many times you should iterate depends on the complexity of the product or service you're building. But that's what iteration is all about. And last but not the least, obviously, being optimistic. Otherwise, if we don't believe that we can solve human-centered problems or can solve problems for others, then obviously the first step itself is we are leading to failure. So being optimistic is very, very important. And the heart of all this is being empathetic. Yeah. I just want to ask a question. You can again put your answers in the chat. There's kind of a difference between being empathetic and being sympathetic, right? So let me know what you think about if there's any difference between being empathetic with your customer or your audience versus being sympathetic with them. And later on, we'll just take a look at what you think about empathy versus sympathy. So these are some of the core aspects of what kind of mindset we need to have in order to create any new product or service. You could be a team member contributing to a new innovation. You could be actually a owner, a startup, or owner who is actually building a new product or service. Yeah? Or you could be an end customer who is going to benefit from this new innovation. In all this sense, it is important that all these specific mindsets, are built, and this happens over a period of time. You may not be creatively confident in the first place, but as you go along, as you make things happen, as you learn from failures, your confidence will increase over a period of time. Yeah. Especially for students who are studying, it is important that you inculcate these mindsets, one at a time, and see how it benefits you in the longer run when it comes to developing new products and services. Yeah. If there are any questions about the right mindset, obviously you can put it in the chat. We'll come to it later. So that was about the mindset. Next, obviously, you need a team, right? All of you, who are going to part of the growth centers journey, and going to work on different projects in the future, as an intern or as an entrepreneur going forward. Yeah. So you and me, are who are the part of the team, and this is important that we have the right people. When it's the right people, it's not about the skill sets or the experience. Right people in terms of having the right mindset, which we just talked about. And more diverse the team is, better solutions we can come across. In my own experience in the last few years, where I have been part of new product and service development, I have seen many diverse aspects that have come in from not also the experienced people, but also from the freshers and new joinees. Yeah? And that really helps build new products and services. Yeah? Otherwise, there are so many assumptions that we actually kind of neglect a lot of important aspects when you're building for our customers or our end users. Yeah? So it's better that the team itself is building new products and services are also as diverse as our end customers. Yeah? And that really helps in building better products and services. Third aspect, of course, is environment. Now, as we are talking about being on a platform like Growth Central, that's the environment under which you're going to get guidance and you're going to build new products and solutions, right? So you need the right environment, you need the right set of mentors to help you, build your own capability when it comes to building new products and services. So it's very important that we also have the right environment and right mentor to help us grow and build new products and services. Yeah. All of this together, leads to innovation, and that's what design thinking, is all about. So I have a question for all of you. Again, you can use the chat, and if you know the answer, it's okay. If you don't know the answer, also is okay. This is not a test, to test your knowledge. It's just for bringing those ideas into the front. Yeah. So if you have some understanding of what is innovation, and if you also have some understanding of how it's different from being creative, we talked about creative confidence, right, in the mindset. So how is innovation different from creativity? Yeah, to make it a little bit more thoughtful, how is it different from even being, invention? How do you differentiate between innovation and inventions, creativity and invention? Yeah, so think about that. I'm not expecting the right answer, but throw some light on what your understanding is about all this. And I'm going to anyway give you the answer in the next minute. So let's look at, is there any question or anything that is coming in the chat, Molly?
No, we have two answers that have come in the chat. One is creativity is related to imagination, and innovation is related to implementation.
Yes, that's a good thing. Any other thoughts that are coming?
Yeah, one more. It's creativity comes from within.
Okay, some interesting thoughts that are coming. And as I said, these are not there are no right or wrong answers. So I think this it's a very valid point that you have made. Yeah. So in other words, Theodore Levitt is one of the thought leaders. Security is thinking up new ideas. So say I'm coming out with a new say smartphone or a new laptop, which is going to be different from what you have seen in the past or what is available in the market. Yeah. Now that idea of what I should be doing, what features and how I'm going to build that product is a creativity that I'm coming up with. How it should look, what should be the size, what should be the configuration, what hardware, what software, and all that is basically creativity. Once I have that idea and I have made it into some shape through ideation and prototyping, when I actually commercialize and I'm making that into a product which I'm going to sell in the market, that is innovation. Yeah. So you're bringing ideas to life through the process of innovation. So creativity is required. It's the foundation for building any new ideas or solutions. Innovation basically take those ideas, implement them, commercialize them, make profits. That's what is innovation all about. So let's look at a little bit of deeper dive of what exactly these two things mean. So just say creativity is new ideas, novel ideas, and they have some utility. Like if I build a new smartphone or laptop, I can use it. Although it may not be a final product, but I can still use it, and I can process data, I can do computing, I can do games, I can watch movies, and I can do all that. So it is still a novel idea, and it has some utility. Applies generally to small scale setups, like individuals or small teams can use it. And objective is to creating or building a unique or a product. That's the objective of being creative. All of us are, in some way or the other, we are creative. We may not have built new product services ourselves, but every day, if you look at our life, there are so many ways in which we find ways to be creative. Be it is studies, be it in our hobbies, be it in our personal, focus in life, be it with the family, be it with traveling, be it working from home, anything, studying from home. All this requires different ways in which we find ways to be creative. Yeah. So that's the left side of the pane. And innovation is on the other side, which says you take that new idea, there's a utility that you have identified for it. Now go and build it and scale it, commercialize it, and start making revenue. In the process of doing innovation, you also need to improvise. So it's not that you built it once and now you just make a few hundred or few million computers or smartphones. Yeah. In the process of also doing that, you'll also find improvements, new ways of doing things, improving the product, not just the software, also the hardware, getting feedback from your customers, and all that is process of innovation. Applies to obviously larger organizations, or if you're building for everyone. I'm building a smartphone, say for everyone, which I want to launch globally. It is for everyone, whoever wants to use that smartphone. And the main objective here is to commercialize a specific idea and bring it to reality. So it's very important, and I'm going to talk about some examples later where you will understand the importance of the differences between the two. And that is why I covered this a little bit more in detail. Yeah. If there are any questions about this, obviously you can put it in the chat. I'll be more than happy to answer them. Okay, now let's look at, this is a framework which is designed by IDEO. IDEO is one of the leading design firms who's focused on the human-centered design. Yeah, I'm not going to get into all the steps here. That was not the objective of this session. We're going to focus on ideation and prototyping out of this. But at least I thought I'll present the framework so at least there are three phrases which are inspiration, ideation, and implementation. Yeah. Inspiration basically is defining the problem. Ideation obviously is looking at different possible solutions to the problem, and implementation is actually building a new product or service, through innovative process. So that's the kind of overall framework. But as I said, we are going to focus more on ideation and prototyping. Yeah. Now, when you're looking at being a part of, say, a new project where you are building a new product or service, the first and foremost thing is how do we start? Where do we start? So we have an idea and we want to, we have a solution in mind and we want to go and build out. We want to be innovative and we want to build that solution. Yeah. But how do you know, what you're doing or what you're planning to do is in the right direction? Yeah. So IDEO has a simple kind of a triad where it says you start with desirability. Look at, as we mentioned earlier, it's all about solving human problems, right? Being human-centered. So this starts with, is this particular product or solution that we are looking at, thinking about building, desirable to the target audience? Yeah. So look at that, and then also look at now whether it's viable for me to build this, as an individual or as an organization, as a startup, whether it is viable for me to build this. And third, obviously, what technology or what equipments I will need, to actually build this particular product or service. Yeah. So it's important that all three aspects are considered. In a typical business environment, viability and feasibility are very, very important. Yeah. But what design thinking and innovation talks about is think about desirability first. What we are building, what problem we are trying to solve, is it really something that is desirable for the people who we are building for? Who is our target audience? Is it our employees? Is it our customers? Are you building a new product for somebody in the open market? Who is your target audience? Are you starting with your own country first, and then you want to go global, or you're building a very specific niche product for a specific target audience, say a few hundred people, in your organization or in the place where you're staying, a very local product. Yeah. So look at all those aspects from desirability perspective. And once you get that answer, yes, this is something that I thought about building, and this looks to be desirable to my target audience. You should also look at the viability and the feasibility aspect. Yeah. So all three are important. Innovation actually happens at the center of this. But what IDEO says is you start and focus on the desirability aspect. Yeah. And then you focus on whether this is viable, how I can build this solution, what kind of resources and technology I will need, and how is it feasible. Now, if you think that this is something desirable, but it's not viable, something that I'm probably not able to build at the moment, maybe I don't have funds, I don't have money, or my priorities are different. This is something that is not on priority. There's something else that is going on. So you might decide that it's desirable, but right now it's not viable for me to build this, which is also okay. Yeah. Or you might think this is desirable. You checked for even the viability. Your business or your investors also given you go ahead to build this, but you just see that the technology is not available. I want to build this, but currently I don't have the right technology with me, or I have the right technology, but I don't have people who actually can help me build this particular product or service. Yeah. So in that case also, although it is desirable, although you have investors, you have people who are ready to invest, but you don't have the right resources or the right technology, so it makes it less feasible to build this particular product or solution. Yeah. So in any of these cases, if you think that if it is not feasible for whatever reason, or if it is not viable for whatever reason, yeah, although it is desirable, which you have already checked and you want to build that, you might either want to delay that you will do this later, or you might want to engage with other stakeholders. You might have somebody else who thinks this is more viable. You can partner with them, or you might find other resources and technology alternatives that you can use to build this, and that will make it more feasible. Yeah. So there are ways in which you want to prioritize and take up a new project or build new product or service. Yeah. But it's important that you start with desirability. Yeah. So don't start with viability and feasibility first. Although that is important, you need to check that. But first thing is we are building a product or service to solve a particular problem. Yeah. To create a new service which will solve a problem. Therefore, it is important that we focus on desirability. Again, there are questions you can put in the chat. I'll take them up. Recently, there was a project which I worked upon. I'm just taking an example here. And we talked about creating a cyber secure environment for our organization. So our business was focused on reducing security incidents, right, which was the foremost important for them. We are looking at actually how do we build this awareness in people, employees, so that people are not making human errors, right? And we're also looking at ways in which we can create actual simulations where people can practice, make mistakes, and learn from them instead of making a mistake in a real world. Yeah. But when we looked at the desirability aspect of this, employees and their families came back said, and why don't you just focus only on work-related issues, but also cover the personal scenarios. Yeah. Now, if you look at post-COVID, everyone's working from home. People are using VPN networks or private networks to connect. A lot of people are also connecting from public places through Wi-Fi or through hotspots. So this was kind of a more desirable aspect that we never thought about. We thought, okay, we'll build it for our employees, and that will take care of it. But employees came back and said, why don't you build something which will not only make us aware of work-related security issues, but also the personal issues. When you do net banking, when you do online shopping, when you do social media engagements, how do we become more secure overall as a person, not just in my work environment, but also in my personal life. Yeah. So the product and the solution that we built, we had to look at different scenarios, not just from work perspective, but also from the personal life perspective. And that's what made this product with the actual model that we created to build awareness about various cybersecurity awareness points, it became more desirable to the end customer. And in fact, we also looked at ways in which we can extend this overall module to not just the employees, but also their family and friends. Yeah. So the product became more desirable to everyone, not just the target audience that we had thought about in the beginning. Yeah. Now, if you look at the three aspects, business was not concerned about the personal scenarios. And they said, okay, I mean, my priority is work and how people are accessing work from remote places. Yeah. The technical team said, yes, we will do and we'll build the best module that will adhere to all the compliances and ensure that all points are covered. But when you talk to our end users, end customers, they said, I mean, it is important that we know security and how to manage it at work, but we're also looking at ways to, personal life, how can we be more secure. Yeah. So design thinking and innovation will bring you these different aspects, and then you can kind of reprioritize and focus on what problems you want to solve first. Yeah. As I said earlier, all three aspects are important. We cannot neglect the viability aspect. We cannot neglect the feasibility aspect, and obviously we cannot neglect the desirability aspect of it. So I thought I'll just share an example to kind of make it a point. Yeah. Now coming to ideation and prototyping, which is what we're going to cover here. So if you look at the ideation steps, it's basically the synthesis of what exactly the problem is and what are the possible ways in which it can be solved. So we'll do the synthesis of our own understanding of the problem. Then there's the step of brainstorming, which I'm sure you must have heard or you must have practiced. But I'm going to talk about different rules. And we'll also look at the prototyping aspect of it. So first and foremost is what kind of problem we're trying to solve and what kind of target audience we're trying to solve it for. Yeah. So it's important that we synthesize all the information that we have, either the market research, either talking to people, through empathy, which we talked about in the mindset, yeah, to try to understand and see what are the different problems that we want to address, what is the scope of this entire project, and then try to find themes, in those. If I go back to the previous example that I just took, so we looked at various aspects of what people are looking for and what is important to them, apart from what the organization wants people to know. Yeah. And then we looked at various aspects of this and kind of created a scoping, document for our own project. Yeah. And we looked at what else we need to look at in terms of building this new product. That's the synthesis step. So you have to find different themes and look at what is in scope and what is not in scope. And then there's a concept of IDEO says you create how might we statements. How might we create a better cyber secure organization? That was the example that I took. Or how might we build a new, say, a smartphone or a mobile phone? How might we build a new, all of you, I'm sure, drink tea or coffee. How do I build a new, a coffee shop or a cafe to serve customers in a better way, provide them better tea or better coffee? Yeah. So you can look at different aspects of what the problem is, find different themes through the synthesis process, and try to craft the how might we statements. And that will actually give you kind of a problem statement that you want to focus on. And there could be multiple problem statements that you can create. Yeah? And you can take it them one by one. That's the first step in ideation. Synthesize the information that you have and try to define the problem in a more granular way. After you synthesized, the next step is basically creating prototypes, testing, and getting feedback from your end customer or audience. Yeah? There are multiple ways in which it can be done. You can create simple storyboards, right? You can do it in pen paper, you can create it on PowerPoint, whatever tool or whatever technology you are familiar with. Yeah, you can use that. If it is one-on-one or face-to-face, you can also use pen and paper to create a storyboard. Yeah? The idea of creating a storyboard is to understand the pain points of the end users and trying to create a story out of it, so they can relate to what kind of problems they're facing, and that also gives you a good input while creating a initial wireframes and ideas on paper. Then there are tools that you can use for advert prototyping. There are many free tools, also paid tools that are available. If you're working for a specific project or organization, I'm sure they have their own tools that you can use. If you're doing this as a student or as a freelancer, then there are tools available in the market which are free and also paid, web-based, or cloud-based. You can use them. What is important is building out and showing. We talked about the concept of make it, right, and learning from failure. So when you're going through storyboarding or prototyping, the idea is that you're creating or creating something and showing it to them and trying to get their feedback rather than just talking about how you're going to build that particular product solution. Yeah. Obviously, step 3 is getting feedback. The more iterations you do, the more feedback you get, the better product or service that you're going to build. Yeah. And how many times you do it, obviously, as I said, depends on the complexity of the product or solution, what kind of problem you're trying to solve, based on the desirability, feasibility, and the viability of it. But more iterations you do, better feedback you get, and your end customers or your customers will actually also buy into your prototype. Yeah. You'll always believe and trust something that they can try out, they can see, rather than something they see on a paper or on the screen. Yeah. So it's important that you build it out. It could be just on paper also. It does not have to be fancy. The definition of prototype itself is that if something doesn't work out, you should be able to throw it. So don't build prototypes which are complex and spend too much money on it. Yeah, build easy prototypes on paper or through online tools and technologies, and get feedback from customers before getting into too much of investment into building the product. Yeah. So that's the step for prototyping, testing, and getting feedback. Now it's important that you understand between the time that you define a problem and the time that you actually build a solution, yeah, for the customer. The more time it takes to build this, the less confidence or the trust the customer will have on you. Right? All the startups, if you see, they build prototypes, they build ideas quickly. They give it out to the customers. Customer could be you and me, right? Who they're building it for, and they're trying to get feedback, right? They don't build all the features at once. They build feature number 1, they roll it out, they look at the feedback, make improvements, then roll out the feature number 2. All the new mobile apps that you see on the iStore, Apple Store or on Play Store are built on this concept. Yeah. So basically start building it out, build feature by feature, give it out to your end customers, get their feedback, make improvements, then build the next one. Yeah. And that's how you should iterate and build new products and services. The time you require to build the first prototype to the first final product, will make your product successful. The more time you take between identifying a problem and creating a solution, right, the less trust and confidence that your customer will have on you. Yeah. So this is another mindset that you'll have to build up, while you are working on new products and services. Now you're going to learn about entrepreneurship. You're going to learn about building new products and services. So keep that aspect in mind. That don't spend too much time in building perfect products and solutions. Build them, test them out, get feedback, then move to the next one. Yeah, very, very important. I just shown an example. Recently, there was a project that was done, which I was part of. And we're actually building a post-COVID kind of a work environment where people can go to the workplace and they have kind of an application which they can use for all these services like catering, traveling, or even attendance for that matter. So we built out a few prototypes, very early prototypes, low fidelity, because we wanted people to understand and see how these are panning out when they come back to work. And we looked for their feedback. This was like the initial prototype that was built. We did a second prototype where some of the features They had to be reprioritized, and people are saying, okay, now that I'm going to come back to work a few days in a week, and I'm also looking for shopping or buying new products which might be available to employees at a discounted rate. Yeah. Location specific information they wanted, what all is available in the post COVID world. Do we have flexible sitting? Do we have permanent desks? What kind of setup do we have? And we also wanted a global search to search for different services that are available in the post-COVID scenario. So we built out a couple of iterations of this, and then we also built a live pilot on all the features, which this is still not live. This is not yet gone live, but we have built a live pilot, which has been made available to all the end customers, all the employees of the organization. And again, this is a continuous improvement. So although this product is ready and been rolled out, we are still looking for what enhancements, what new features, are needed, and we are looking into creating a better solution out of it. So those are some of the steps that I wanted to kind of cover in this. Just to briefly go back, if there are any questions, we can take those up.
We have a question around iterations and prototyping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's based on iterations. When do you think it is better to rather build a new product than to adding new features to the existing one?
Yes, so very, very pertinent question. So when you're starting out in building a new product, you already have a certain problem in mind, right? And you're building a solution for that. When it comes to iteration or doing improvisations, you already have a product, which has been built, and there are specific issues or specific features which are missing, or you got that feedback from your customers later on. The initial scope did not have those features, but as they started playing with the prototypes and the solution that you're building, they came out with new ideas or new features that they wanted. Yeah. So the iterations will actually take up those new feedback and features, and you can decide whether you want to build them, whether you want to make it in scope. Either they were not there earlier or they were lesser priority. Yeah. So while doing iterations, you may build new features and solutions, but most probably you will do improvements on what you already built, because you already had a problem statement in mind and you already had something that you're building upon, right? But in the list of priorities that you're taking up, if you think this product or feature which is new also makes sense and it is more desirable, again, those three aspects: is it desirable, is it viable, and it's feasible. If you think this is going to make sense, make it part of your next iteration and build it out. Yeah. Otherwise, typically you'll do iterations for what has already been decided and what is in scope and what enhancements are required to that particular. Yeah.
And we have
There are cases, there are cases wherein you might take this new feature or solution as a new project altogether. It's quite possible. It may not be in the same project. Take it up as a new project. That's also possible. Yeah, please go ahead. Next question.
Yeah. We have another question. How would you suggest prioritizing problem statements?
Yeah, very, very, very important question, and I'm glad that you asked. So the first and foremost things, if in an organizational context, there will be many, many, problems and many, many solutions that you are building out. So obviously there will be a central kind of a innovation board or innovation council who will decide what should be taken up first. In a typical startup or new product development environment, in the open world, it is you who will decide. You who will actually look at what kind of problems I want to take up, and you also have to look at not only desirability but feasibility and the viability of it. Is this something that I can do with help of a few people who can build this along with me? Is this something I can do on my own individually, or if it is part of a startup, then who all do we have, and what kind of products we can build? Yeah. So in terms of a wish list or what you want to do, I mean, it is endless. You can do as many new products and solutions that you want to build. Yeah. Ultimately, it's the priority of what makes sense, what kind of problems you want to solve. Not every person or individual wants to solve all kinds of problems, right? Like for example, healthcare may not be my domain, so I'm not comfortable building products or services in healthcare. Yeah. Or say renewable energy, that could be something that is my area. Or in say edtech or education technology, is my area. So it could be any specific domain, and there you can prioritize on which problems you want to solve. Yeah, and also obviously you have to look at viability and feasibility of it. Yeah, but that's the way you would typically go and kind of choose what kind of problems you want to take up. Yeah, typically what we have seen, startups take up problems that either they have faced themselves or somebody in their circle, in family or in their friend circle has faced it, and then they take up those problems and they solve them. Yeah, organizations typically take up their own problems and challenges because they're growing, they want to build new products and services for their customers. They take a different approach, and they always have a pipeline of what should be done first. Yeah. Typically, the startups and small entrepreneurs, will have to make this decision on their own on which products and services they want to build first. Yeah, a good, very good question. I'm happy to answer that.
Yeah.
Any other questions that are coming up?
Yeah, we have another question.
Mhm.
What should be our first step to start any task? For example, if I were to design a software, what should be my first step?
Very good question. Your first step, as I said, is what is the problem that you're trying to solve. For example, if I decide today that okay, I want to build a software, what is the reason? I mean, what is that problem that I'm going to resolve by creating a software, right? So in this case, suppose just taking an example, I want to create a new product, say something like air meat, which you're using for this session, right? So what is it that I want to do? There are so many products available in the market. You can use Zoom, you can use Google Meet, you can use. I mean, there's so many thousands of products available. So when I'm trying or thinking of building a new video conferencing or hosting software, what is it that I'm trying to solve? That's the first question that I'm going to answer, and that will lead me to deciding what kind of software or solutions I want to build. Right? Either there's already a problem that I see, and there are limitations, and I want to solve it, or there's something that I've taken up, and I want to build this as a unique proposition. Although there are so many other products, similar products available, but I'm providing a unique proposition in terms of what is desirable, what is viable, and uh, what is feasible. Yeah. So those are the some other questions that I will answer when I think about building a new software.
We have another one. How does one avoid bias when it comes to prioritizing problem statements?
Yeah, very, very important question. Yeah, I'm glad somebody asked it. And I'll in fact share an example wherein we are building a product for a life science company. Yeah. And we had two sets of users, the ones which are typically life science, the specialists, the ones who are actually licensed professionals, the health professionals. And then we have another set of people who were a little junior, kind of lab technicians who are actually doing research on selecting cells for new medicine development. We started off building out a product for them on there's a product called single cell cloning, which we're building for this company. Initially, when we ventured out in the problem understanding, the top management or the professionals who were experienced, there was a certain understanding of what they're looking for in this particular product. As we deep dived to look at various aspects of it, we also got a lot of good new insights from the actual lab technicians who were doing research in the lab. Yeah? So it is important when you're venturing out on a new product or service development, you talk to different audiences. Right? Typically, you will get it from leadership team or somebody who is sponsoring that particular innovation. But over a period of time, it is important that you also engage with other stakeholders. Yeah, and that will give you a more unbiased version of what they are expecting this product to do, or what are the real problems that they are facing. Yeah. So we venture out in innovation. Although I am not going to cover the topic here in this session, but the specific topic which talks about the extreme and mainstream users and how do you take their inputs when you are building out a problem statement. Yeah. So there's a concept of empathizing with mainstream is the actual target audience for whom you are building a new product or service, and is also the extreme sets who are not directly going to use the product or service, but they are some of the people who will give you unbiased views or inputs about what you're trying to build. Right. So keep that concept in mind. Not talking and engaging only with the mainstream users, but also the other extremes on both the sides. The ones who directly may be impacted by the solution or facing the problem, and the other who are not directly going to use this solution, but they can provide you a lot of insights in terms of how this product should work for its targeted audience. Yeah. So the diversity of audience and what inputs you take from them will lead you to unbiased product and solution building. Yeah, I'm glad you asked this. Very, very pertinent. And incidentally, we had faced this in a recent project, and that's why it was important to cover it. Great questions. What else? Are there further questions?
Which aspect is more important, being creative or innovative?
Both. Yeah, as I said, creativity is the foundation for any new innovation, right? And creativity is what human beings is all about. Yeah, innovation is taking that to a higher scale, commercializing it, and kind of creating better impact, reaching out to more customers, and creating a better impact for them. Yeah. So both are important. It's not either or. You need to have creative mindset. You need to look at different ways in which a problem can be solved, and then will lead to innovation wherein you're actually building out at scale, going to have impact on larger customer base or audience, and obviously the ultimate goal is to make money, make profits out of it. Yeah. So both foundation in creativity and learning how to you innovate in products and solutions.
Yeah, with one more question.
Mhm.
How do you upscale a product that was initially targeting a smaller group?
Yes. So you'll do that only through iterations, right? Because initially your scope was limited to a specific set of audience and specific set of features that you want to build. Once that is done, and if you now see that okay, there's a larger, usage or a larger audience who can benefit from this particular product, that is the time when you'll actually look at how you can scale it. Now, if you're looking at software products and solutions, now technology is making it easy through cloud and through scaling of clouds, whether it is private clouds or public clouds. But if you're looking at building non-technological products, even there, your initial scope might be limited to a specific audience. But once you build it out and they see more benefits, you might want to scale it with more features, or maybe just building more volume of the same product or solution. Yeah. The foundation is building it right at the first place through iteration, and then if you see that there's a demand or there's a new requirement that has come in, you need to scale it up. Yeah. So if it is through technology, I mean, there are so many solutions available, and you can do it more easily through cloud and other stuff. If it is non-technical, obviously you're going to manufacture. So you'll have to scale your manufacturing, your assembly line to build those products and solutions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope the answers. Yeah.
One final question.
Mhm.
How do you deal with failure?
Interesting. Yeah. So how do you deal with failure? I go back to the mindset side. Probably let me go back there. Jumping back, but I think that might help. Yeah. Or rather, maybe let's keep this slide in mind. Yeah. As I said, I mean, if you are into building new product or service, if starting out new, or whether experience doesn't really matter. Even when we are building new product services now, we are making mistakes, right? So if you go back, particular slide, sorry, I'm jumping back, but all of these will help you face failures. Nobody, in fact, if you look at any product or solution that you're using today, whether it's e-commerce, edtech, even OTT platforms, look at their initial, versions, initial products that they have developed. They were miserable. I mean, they were not up to the mark. And those failures, because they rolled it out, people tried them, they looked at what is working, what is not working. So they're willing to roll it out, give it out to people, let them try it out, give the feedback. So nobody of them thought about building the perfect solution at the first place. They were anticipating failures. So understanding that, yes, we'll build something, give it out, ship it out to people, and we ask them to try it out. All this, we also test it ourselves. It's not that we only give it to the end customer. But after we test it, the best feedback that you can get is from the end customer, right? And that leads to you to going back and improving. So failure, although it is considered as a setback, it actually um, kind of a device or a tool that you can use for building production services. Yeah. So turn that around in terms of the mindset, and actually look at your first initial iterations, prototypes, and see how miserable they are, or what kind of feedback you get from your customers. Yeah, but the idea is we are building it because we want feedback, and we can make better products in the next iteration. That's the foundation of being, learning from your failing and learning from failure. Right. So don't hesitate that if your first prototype of whatever you're building, you might be building it tomorrow. Who knows? So it is important that you give it out. That is why I said in one of my specific points, when you're building prototype, they should be easy enough, low fidelity, something that you can throw out. You don't have to worry about, or I've invested so much of time, energy in building this for last 3 months, and now you're saying this is not something which is useful to me. Build something else for me. Yeah. So when you're building it out, build it along with your customers, get their feedback, keep it simple, put it on piece, pen and paper. That's the simplest way to do it. Let them see it. Let them see how it's going to look like. Let them interact with that particular picture. Tell them a story. Get feedback, then do the next iteration. So that will help you fail more often, but make better products in the process. I spend more time on this because yes, this is one of the biggest challenge. People talk about that how do you fail and how do you learn from failures. Yeah? It comes from practice. Keep building, keep iterating, and more you do it, better product services you will build, and your failure percentage of failure rate will go down over a period of time. Initially will be high, later on will be low.
That's all the questions we have today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Wonderful. So I'm glad I was able to contribute and give some insights to everyone. And if there are any other questions, even later on, Molly can help me shoot out those questions through email, and I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Definitely.
Yeah? And I hope all of them found this session useful, and happy to answer any questions in the future also.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.